Hello, my name is Rex Invictus, and this is my channel. Today I'll be reading from one of my authors. His name is Henry Miller, and the book is Stand Still Like a Hummingbird. I believe this book is essential in terms of inspiration for humanity. I'll be reading the first chapter. It's called The Hour of Man, and understanding these words and the true meaning of what these words mean is essential. The Hour of Man. Walking the highways with Walker Winslow, after we had finished our work for the day, we often found ourselves returning to the same subject, the miraculous simplicity and effectiveness of mutual aid. As a one-time member of Alcoholics Anonymous, Walker had ample opportunity to observe the startling results which a mere sense of solidarity could produce. The alcoholic who regarded himself as helpless and hopeless could find comfort and sustenance through mere association with others similarly afflicted. What about other sufferers, other addicts, other victims of society? Which is to say, the great majority of mankind. Are we not all virtually in the same boat? How many of us are masters of our fate? How many of our friends or acquaintances can we point to and say, there is a liberated individual, or even there is a self-sufficient individual? The substance of our thoughts, I might summarize this. Supposing that we all considered ourselves members of, not an organization, but an ancient, durable order, the only one that we can truly give allegiance to, humanity. Supposing that instead of blame and censure, or judgment and punishment, we met deviations and aberrations of the norm with sympathy and understanding, with a desire to aid rather than a desire to protect ourselves. Supposing we base our security solely upon the certitude of mutual aid, supposing we scrap the web of complicated laws in which we are now hopelessly enmeshed, and substituted the unwritten law that no cry of distress, no appeal for help should go unnoticed. Is not the instinct to aid one another just as strong, stronger indeed than the impulse to condemn? Do we not suffer from the disuse of this instinct, from its usurpation by the state and charitable organizations of every kind? If we knew in brief that whatever our plight, whatever the cause of it, we had but to announce it, and we would be succored, would not most of the ills which now plague us fall away of themselves? Are we all not victims of fear and anxiety precisely because we lack faith and trust in one another? And more so because we lack the intelligence to recognize a power and a wisdom greater than our own. There is a short prayer which is often employed by members of Alcoholics Anonymous. It goes thus: God grant us the serenity to accept the things we cannot change, courage to change the things that we can, and the wisdom to know the difference. To get to the crux of the problem, which had almost become obsessive, here's what we asked each other. Can one really aid another individual, and if so, how? The question was answered, of course, long ago by Jesus in a simple, direct way. One which today we are all prone to call a Zen-like way. Jesus made a number of explicit statements, injunctions really, all to the effect that one was to take no thought but to respond immediately to any appeal of aid, and to respond in large measure, to give your cloak as well as your coat, to walk 2 miles and not 1, and as we know well with these injunctions, when another more important one, to return good for evil. Resist not evil, I quote. Therefore, throughout the parables of Jesus, there is implicit another most wholesome idea, that we are not to seek trouble, not to go about trying to patch things up, not to endeavor to convert others to our way of thinking, but to demonstrate the truth which is in us by acting instinctively and spontaneously when confronted with an issue. To do our part and trust in the Lord, in other words. By responding with a full spirit to any demand which is made upon us, we aid our fellow man to help himself. For Jesus, there was no problem involved. It was simple. By giving the full measure of oneself, more, in other words, than was demanded, you restored to the one in need his human dignity. You gave from a cup that was overflowing. The need of the other instantly vanished, because it was met by the inexhaustible reservoir of spirit, and spirit answers to spirit. The answer then is to be ever in readiness, to do the immediate and to give without stint, not to examine the other's motives or one's own, not to debate, not to procrastinate, not to wonder about the results of one's actions, and certainly not to look for approval, approbation, or reward. If it works for the individual, it will work for society as a whole. One is not responsible to society, but to God. To work a radical transformation, all that was required, as we saw it, was to put into practice the simple injunction: do unto others as we would have others do unto you. No beliefs, no worship, no 10 commandments, no ceremonials, no churches, no organizations of any kind. No waiting for a better government, better laws, better working conditions, better this, better that. Begin this moment, wherever you find yourself, and take no thought of the morrow. Look not to Russia, China, India, not to Washington, not to the adjoining country, city, or state, but to your immediate surroundings. Forget Buddha, Jesus, Muhammad, and all the others. Do your part to the best of your ability, regardless of the consequences. Above all, do not wait for the next man to follow suit. It seems so absolutely clear and simple to us, too clear, too simple perhaps. Whoever endeavors to act upon this truth has to have the courage of the lion, the tenacity of the bull, the willingness of the serpent, and the innocence of the dove. It nevertheless remains an illuminating fact that it is only the presence of a handful of men in every age that keeps society from degenerating utterly. Tradition has it that these few remain ever anonymous, and that is they who inspire the illustrious ones. In a short article called "The Hour of Man," Walker attempted to set forth his views. The article begins this, I quote, "Recently, in a great mental hospital, I sat with a team of scientists who were selecting patients for lobotomy, a drastic surgical procedure that sometimes desensitizes the afflicted to his affliction by damaging the brain tissue. Before each patient appeared, his or her case was read. Here were stories of broken homes, of jealousy, of natural fear of economic or societal consequences, of people kept in ignorance of sex, and finally, people subjugated to the terror of war. None of these people had organically damaged brains. None was suffering from physical illness. The cleavage between the life their birth had promised them and the life we as society had inflicted upon them had been too great for their emotional resources. Oddly enough, one of the criterions of selection for lobotomy was that the patient be able to return to a better environment than the one he or she had came from. Only when this was assured would the surgeon ply the knife. That night, I saw one man plead with tears in his eyes for an operation that would leave him forever somewhat dulled. He wanted his sensitivity diminished until he could stand the world which he had to live. Better environment indeed. After citing some phenomenal statistics relative to the yearly consumption of alcohol and drugs in every description in this land of opportunity, he states, "I've wandered in and out of mental hospitals of the land, studied the mental hygiene movements, and looked to many organizations for a solution to my own problems, and the prevention of an occurrence of these problems in others. One year I interviewed 1,400 alcoholics. I found many noble and dedicated men and women and a legion of sufferers, but among them I have found no ready answer." He then goes on to say, and this I think is the most important part of the chapter, it's the description of the hour of man. He then goes on to say, I quote, "I want to see the radio or television turned off for an hour a week, the paper or magazine laid aside, the car locked safely in the garage, the bridge table folded, the liquor bottle corked, and the sedatives kept tightly in their packages. I want to see production and consumption forgotten for this hour. Politics must be forgotten, national or international. The hour that I propose could be called the hour of man. During this hour, man could ask himself and his neighbor just what purpose they are serving on earth, what life is, what a man or woman can rightly ask of life, as well as what they must give in return. If that man is working and struggling for what he really wants, is it worth the price he pays in personal suffering? Neighbors should learn to listen intently to neighbors. And only that way will the eye turn inwards. In other people's souls, they could see the undistorted image of their own souls. As they helped others, they would help themselves. I must confess that this idea of, end quote, I must confess that this idea of getting a whole nation to come to a full stop, if only for an hour a week in order to think and meditate, has great appeal for me. I believe the results would be fantastic, and it could be done. Though it sounds chimerical now, the Muslim world unites in prayer daily when Muezzin calls from his minaret. But when has any community knocked off in order to devote a few minutes to the problems which beset the community? Thinking and meditating in unison about a given problem, what possibilities it offers. I venture to say that given such a procedure, we would receive from the mouths of our children the most sagacious, practical, and fecund observations and suggestions. And as things stand today, even the intelligent man is ruled out of councils of our leaders, despite all the talks about freedom of speech, freedom of the press, electoral freedom, and so on. I dare say it would be a shock to know what the common man thinks about the problems which confront the world. Common man is always cleverly set off one against the other. Children are always ruled out. Young people are ordered to conform and obey. And the views of the wise, the saintly, the true servers of mankind are forever scorned as impractical. No, it would be a grand thing for any community, large or small, to set aside even 5 minutes of the day for serious contemplation. If nothing more were to result in the recognition of such a feeling as community, it would be a great step forward, honestly. If it be true that we have not yet accepted the fact that we are members of one world, or even of one nation, how much more true is it that we are not even members of the little communities to which we belong? We become more and more atomized, more and more separate and isolate. We hand our problems over to our respective governments, absolving ourselves of duty, conscience, and initiative. We do not believe in personal example, though we profess to worship the great exemplar, Jesus the Christ. We hide from the face of reality. It is too terrible, we think. Yet it is we, only we, who have created this hideous world. And it is we who will change it, by changing our own inner vision. The truly lamentable thing about la condition humaine is that 9/10 of the problem which overwhelm us could be solved overnight. There are by no means insuperable problems. All the energies now harnessed in inconsequential, idiotic, degrading, and destructive ends could be converted to useful and ennobling ends by a mere shift of position or attitude. Only a very few souls at any time in man's history have had privilege to battle with the great problems, the problems worthy of man. Whenever my mind runs in this channel, I think of the English novelist Claude Houghton, the only writer I know to do it, who invariably frees his protagonist early in the book of the usual mundane problems which ordinary people spend their lives vainly wrestling with. No wonder he is styled a metaphysical novelist. Yet it is only by freeing a character from the usual everyday problems that the author may hope to present him as unique and worthy of attention. Arm a man with his God-given power, set him face to face with reality. Then let us see what shape and substance human problems may really assume. Sometimes it seems to me that the only heroes are the saintly ones. Doing good, battling for the right, giving to the needy, securing the weak, preaching, converting, educating the young. What does all of this amount to except to remind us that we are only partly developed, partly realized, partly living? The blind lead the blind, the sick minister unto the sick, the strong rule the weak. The purpose of life, what is it if not to enjoy life? How can one begin to enjoy life if he is already half dead? Let me quote a paragraph from Eric Gutkine's little-known book. And I quote, "The pious attitude, asceticism, spirituality, contrition, these turn the white heat of God into a comfortable household fire. Religion makes God harmless. Our earthly existence unrolls itself before the continents of him, whom no man may look upon and live. And this ineffable paradox is whittled down to the dimensions of a vision, which will conveniently fit into our everyday requirements. Our glorious, inescapable feeling for this world was thus made ready to open 100 ways of escape. By turning our gaze inward, we mistook spirituality for reality. The joy of meeting with God withered before a hateful theology. Religion has betrayed us. It has tricked us out of that miracle of miracles which enables us. When our last hope of escape has died, to rise and obtain an absolute reality, and to eternal meaning where, not consumed, but tempered in the white heat of God, we can proclaim that all the ways of the earth are ways to heaven, and that the other world, however distant and remote, is nothing but the created world made manifest. Under the constraints of religion, life has never been complete and untroubled. Neither world nor man has yet truly been born, or has yet truly been. There speaks a man of God. And now let us make an imaginary jump for a moment. Let us suppose a man, having grown weary of his ineffectual achievements, miracle drugs, lobotomy performances, atomic bugaboos, suddenly begins to develop his psychic powers. Let us suppose that through concentrating his whole attention upon the acquisition of such powers, he succeeds in eliminating disease altogether, restoring the dead to life, and even more astounding miracles. Let us grant him that dominion over nature and over the creature world which he has craved. Then what? By way of answer, I give a story which Ramakrishna once related to his listeners. There was another Siddha who was very proud of his psychic powers. He was a good man and an ascetic. One day the Lord came to him in the form of a saint and said, "Reverend sir," a good man, "Reverend sir, I have heard that thou possesses wonderful powers." The man received him kindly and gave him a seat. At this moment an elephant passed by. The saint asked him, "Sir, if thou desirest, canst thou kill this elephant?" The Siddha replied, "Yes, it is possible." And taking a handful of dust, he repeated some mantra over it and threw it on the elephant. Immediately the animal roared, fell to the ground in agony, and died. Seeing this, the saint exclaimed, "What wonderful power thou possess! Thou hast killed such a huge creature in a moment." The saint then entreated him, saying, "Thou must also possess the power to bring him back to life." The Siddha replied, "Yes, that is also possible." Again he took a handful of dust, chanted a mantra, threw it on the elephant, and lo, the elephant revived and came back to life. The saint was amazed at the sight and again exclaimed, "How wonderful indeed are thy powers! But let me ask thee one question. Thou hast killed the elephant and brought him back to life. What hast thou gained? Hast thou realized God?" Thus saying, the saint disappeared. End quote. To speak ever anew of God, this should be our central task, said Eric Gutkind. Let me quote him more fully, since his words are a sublime summation of an answer to all that has been touched upon in the foregoing pages. God, world, and man, what is, what may be, what should be. God, the one and only reality. World, the completely relative and insubstantial scene. Man, spoken to and answering, summoning to come to reality. God, who does not wish to be alone. World, which cannot be alone. Man, who should not be alone. These three united in the people, which is the absolute collective. The completed unity of the three in the people has nothing that savors of escape. Nothing national or earthborn, nothing ideological. It is concrete through and through. In the blind alley we find subjective man. He is shut up within himself, autistic, inwardly broken, though outwardly secure. The bird. Nothing is alive in this world. Everything is closed, everything dead. He denies God, the one supreme and transcendent idea, which alone gives meaning to man, is to him an object of derision. No, we must venture again and again upon the highest union, that source of all other unions, that meaning of God, man, and the world. No one of these three must be tampered with. To speak ever anew of God, this should be our central task. But only he will have the strength to do this who does not talk about God, but is able to speak to God himself. Not for a moment must this discourse be interpreted in a theological sense, but we may hear it in the ring of ancient worlds charged with the human favor of bygone ages. And he is best fitted to speak with God who knows how to speak with man, and who can proclaim the fullness of the glory of this world. The absolute unity of all beings which is reached in the gathering together of men who have become completed in their humanity, free from fear, nature, and ideology. This is the true tabernacle of the meeting with God, the tabernacle of the present. The present is free both from the passage of time and from the world beyond. The world is there, man is raised up, whoever is aware of him possesses the present. To come back to Walter and the hour of man, was anything gained by these talks? Yes and no. Certainly the hour has not yet struck for such an idea to be taken seriously. Man is still shaping the destiny of the world in a negative fashion. He has not yet come to the last impasse. He is not desperate enough yet to join the AA or its more universal equivalent. He looks forward to having one more bout, possibly 2 or 3, before showing the white flag. He is still satisfied with explanations which explain nothing, with experiments which he knows in his heart are only halfway measures and consequently more productive of evil than of good. He is still willing to make room for new gods, new religions, more from unbelief than belief. He adamantly refuses to acknowledge that within the immediate focus of vision is a source of revelation. In a rock, he sees nothing more than a rock. In a flower, nothing more than a flower. In a man, nothing more than a man. Yet the truth is that in the most insignificant object of creation, the secret of all creation lies hidden. Though it seems at times as if nothing could root him out of the inertia which he is entrenched, it is quite possible that he may one day be shocked into a greater state of awareness. Precept and example seem to have had little effect. Basically, the civilized man is little different from primitive man. He has not accepted the world, neither has he shown any desire to partake in the reality which invests it. He is still bound to the myth and taboo, still the slave of the victim of history, still the enemy of his own brother. The simple, obvious truth that to accept the world is to transform it. The simple, obvious truth that to accept the world is to transform it seems utterly beyond his powers of comprehension. If the gate will not give way, it must be forced. Nothing can dam the rising tide, and all the evidence points to the fact that the tide is rising. Let man make himself as secure as he imagines. The gate will give way. Hour of Man, Henry Miller, Stand Still Like a Hummingbird is the title. This whole book is great. It's amazing. It's philosophical, it's deep, it's insightful, and I think the author himself is philosophical, insightful, and deep. Hopefully I inspire some of you guys to read Henry Miller, maybe read this book, Stand Still Like a Hummingbird. Wow, this chapter really hit me hard. Stand Still Like the Hummingbird, Henry Miller, chapter 1. It feels like such a wake-up call, like he's saying we're at a crossroads right now, where we have to choose between staying asleep in this modern machine or waking up to who we really are. I love how he calls out the way we've tried out humanity for progress. Back in the 1960s, he was already seeing how society disconnects us from our true selves, who we really are. That feels so relevant today with how glued we are to our phones, chasing productivity and losing touch with what makes us feel alive. He's asking us, are we really free? Or are we just cogs in a system? And then there's his obsession with nature, how we lost our connection to the earth, replacing it with technology, essentially. An artificial intelligence. It makes me want to just step outside, breathe, just be for a while. But what I admire most is how fiercely he defends individuality. He defends individuality. He's basically saying, don't let society tell you to be your own person. And if it means going against the grain, it's such an empowering idea, truly. Especially in a world where we're constantly pressured to conform. Reading this chapter made me think about my own life. I've been so caught up in routines, work, just really keeping up, that I sometimes forget to ask myself, what do I really want? Henry's words feel like a challenge to slow down, to stand still like a hummingbird, like the hummingbird that he talks about, and really listen to myself, I'm curious, honestly, what do you guys all think? Have you felt the pressure to conform? How do you feel about your own circumstances? And most importantly, how do you find your own hour to reconnect with who you are? Once again, this is an amazing book. My name is Rex Invictus. This is my channel, and thank you.